asking Russians what the main problems in America are.
Мексиканцы.
Мигранты, здравоохранение и наркотики.
Больше всего, наверное, слишком много свободы. Из-за этого и вот это происходит то, что и наркотики, и мигранты. Как бы факт. Америка свободная страна, они кричат то, что мы свободные, но при этом они, не уважают, можно сказать, друг друга.
Иммиграция, жадность, забыли про религию.
Наверное, это проблема с бездомными, потому что их там, правда, много. Вторая проблема – фастфуд, то, что они слишком много.
Кажется, у них нет проблем.
Наркотики, возможно, большая проблема там.
У них очень много бомжей. Вот проблем, наверное, да, с сильной пропагандой нетрадиционных ценностей.
Легализуется наркомания во многих регионах, тот же Портланд.
Я думаю, первая, самая основная – это недоверие к русским. У них нету Вайлдберриса пока что, но я думаю, однажды появится. Будем надеяться.
Oh, this is Gatlinburg. Yeah, bears just be wandering around out there.
Man, just imagine you chilling, looking out the window, then this happen. Then the bird do some crazy shit like this. You don't know what to do. Spine or just trying to attack you, but on funnel grade. Shit is crazy, y'all. What?
Proceeds to open up and just shoot you.
Morbid Facts, Part 510. Ariana Grande reportedly has a longtime stalker named Paige Neiman who tries to impersonate the famous singer. She's been obsessed with Grande since she was 12 years old and has allegedly undergone several plastic surgeries to look like her despite being only 20 years old. When the Titanic sank, the richest passenger on board was business mogul John Jacob Astor IV, who had enough money in his bank account to build 30 Titanics. He ended up giving up his spot in the final lifeboat to instead save the lives of a random woman and her daughter. These were the last photos of Garrett Miller taken just minutes before a soccer goalpost tipped over and struck him in the head, killing him instantly. In 2013, a family dog named Killian was protecting a baby boy from an abusive babysitter by standing between them and growling at her. This made the boy's parents suspicious of the babysitter, so they hid a recording device under the couch and heard her swearing at the baby while possibly shaking and slapping him. The sitter eventually pleaded guilty to assault and battery of a child and was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
3 Labubus doing a sick bandit at McDonald's drive-thru. I don't know.
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines, help all the people who have been quarantined. We'll wear our masks and we'll have to stay distant. We'll wash our hands and we'll be more resistant. Fauci, yes? Promise us, please. We'll have a cure that can fight off this disease. Restrictions will lift with some ease. Dr. Fauci, don't forget me.
Remember how they gave you a free hamburger if you took the vaccine? That was a crazy time. There's a burger element to this too?
This video is terrifying. Watch it. It's an urban exploration video. Do not do this, by the way. This animatronic is still there, and it has been abandoned since 2003. Look how big it is. 70 feet long. Giant dragon in Las Vegas. Look at the track it's on. You don't have to get that close to it. You really don't. Please step back. Here's it in water, by the way, which it used to be in 24/7 because it actually took place at the Excalibur show at the Excalibur Hotel in Las Vegas. Bro is absolutely massive, by the way. Bro would come out of this trap door and he would breathe fire and have beef with this dude dressed like a wizard. It would be in this arena, which, what's that? That's the track it would come out on, and my submechanophobia is so disgusted by this photo alone. Not only that, here's what it looks like abandoned. Once again, do not go look at this. This is not safe. But this photo of it completely abandoned behind there with the water drained, oh my God. I hate literally everything about this. How are we feeling?
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of things submerged in the water, especially animatronics.
On this picture, I played dead, and the dolphin pushed me to safety. The reason I was the first one to ever do this, the man said I was the first one to ever do this, but I watched the Animal Channel before I went over there. And if you play dead, a dolphin will push you to safety. And look at this motherfucking shot. Bury me with the dolphins. I say bury me with the dolphins. Yeah. Yeah, you see, he pushed me to safety, thought I was dead.
David Katz shows zero emotion as he plays in a tense tournament against other professional gamers. 24-year-old Katz was an elite player of the video game Madden NFL. Katz was known by the tag name Bread.
It's a touchdown, and Bread takes the lead early on here in the second quarter.
He was also known as Mr. Sliced Bread and Ravens champ. He wore the same blank expression whether he won,
Really strong, impressive victory.
or whether he lost. Notice no eye contact, even when a winning competitor tries to shake his hand.
Katz keeps to himself. He's not here to make friends, and to even get him to open up to talk to you about anything, it's like pulling teeth, man.
He's interviewed by former NFL star Steve Tasker.
He came in as a 7 seed and he just knocked off the 2 seed, and he did pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I don't think of myself as a 7 seed. I think personally I'm one of the better players. I like to let my game prove that.
Katz finally cracked Sunday after losing a tournament in Jacksonville, killing 2 gamers and wounding 11 others before turning the gun on himself. A live stream from the tournament captured audio of the chaos that followed.
Oh, what are you shooting with?
Look at the red dot of a laser gun sight landing on 22-year-old Elijah Clayton, known as True 818, a second before he was shot to death.
This is like the third time I've heard of somebody killing somebody over a video game.
One astronaut kicked me. One astronaut threatens to punch me. One astronaut threatens to shoot me. And we even left a hot microphone accidentally in an astronaut's house after he assaulted me. And the camera guy, so, disoriented, he forgets to hit stop recording. So while the astronaut and his son are in their house with the door closed, we're recording the audio by wireless microphone in the backseat of the rental car in the driveway. And they say, word for word, do you want to call the CIA and have them whacked?
You want to call the CIA? Have them whacked?
So like
oh
I
my
said,
goodness!
Yeah,
That
so like
is crazy!
Well, like I said, if I'm some silly person who thinks the moon landings are fake and they really went, why would the CIA be involved? But I have proof that they didn't go. Classified footage and an eyewitness. That's why the CIA is involved. And I go into my book, me being literally kidnapped at the back door of CNN, trying to get somebody the tape, by the government, drugging me with truth serum, vomiting, telling them everything they wanted to know, escaping, peeing in a cup, taking it to a lab, and the lab was broken into and my urine sample was stolen. All that is in the book.
So you're saying that there was more between the CIA and you, aside from them saying, should I have that guy whacked after Buzz Aldrin punched you in the face?
Yeah, a lot more. Would you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
You bet your sweet ass.
Okay, put your left hand on the Bible. Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand and say, I, Edgar Mitchell.
I, Edgar Mitchell.
Affirm.
Affirm.
Under penalty of eternal damnation.
I don't believe in that, but
if you
penalty of eternal damnation.
That I walked on the moon on Apollo 14.
That I walked on the moon on Apollo 14.
Well, you're the first astronaut to do that. We asked 6 other astronauts to swear on the Bible, and they refused to do it.
Well, I don't particularly like to take oaths like that either, because I don't accept the Bible as a gospel of anything except a historical record. But we did go to the moon. You bet your sweet ass we went to the moon. Okay, turn off the camera. Your interview is done. I've given you all the time I'm going to give you.
Okie dokie. Good to meet you.
I don't say it's a pleasure.
Understand.
Please get your ass out of my house.
Okay.
And you came here under false pretenses, and I think you're an asshole. Well, and if you continue this, and if you press this, I will personally take you to court.
I hope that you do. I invite you to. I'm going to give you my card so you can arrange that. And I'm encouraging you to arrange.
You're frankly not worth it.
No, we have you on the record saying you'll take me to court. I hope you do. Because we have proof that would prove it in a court of law that Apollo 11 didn't go to the moon. And I think it's something that you should see. I don't say that lightly, believe me. I don't say it lightly.
You have joking, sir. People can have fun. And maybe do that if they feel like they want to have a little fun on a trip to the moon. As an independent producer,
okay, we're heading out.
Doing that is against moral ethics.
Lying about going to the moon is a satanic lie of gigantic proportions.
I don't hit people, but you're going to be on the deck unless you get...
I'm heading out. I appreciate it.
And get the hell out of the house. You're going to get it done and shoot them at them before they get out of the office?
We have a video camera running if you want to do it.
Right.
That would be great footage for us. See you later. In court, I hope.
Want to call the CIA? Have them whacked?
Well, it was an architectural defect. You know, the World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation. And it withstood that. And I got to see that area about 3 or 4 days after it took place because one of my structural engineers actually took me for a tour because he did the building. And I said, I can't believe it. The building was standing solid and half of the columns were blown out. I mean, so this was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows, you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams, when I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel. And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall.
A lot of people are asking, how is this not everywhere? Once again, who controls the big media?
Again, everyone always has to think there's more to the story. Well, sometimes there's not. I've seen the autopsy report. I've seen our case pulled together.
What did she say?
I've seen the autopsy report.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field post documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add a step to the case documenting that there was no autopsy?
This is insane.
Serve a just God, and I rest easy in knowing that He's sovereign, but He's just. And so let the Lord handle that.
Would Charlie have forgiven his killer?
He's in heaven.
They bring this back up. What are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again? No, at this point, it's what? The conspiracy collection. Get it before Christmas. Look, stop in the name of God.
Amen.
I always wonder how dumb this goyim sometimes can be. Like they say, you killed our God. That means he wasn't a God. How can you kill a God? Normal. How stupid you could be. You killed our God. Who was your God? JC. If he was God, we could kill him.
Really like what a condition 1 in Antarctica is really like. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Check this out. This is the entryway to our dorm. Normally this has carpet on the ground and the walls are just normally walls, you know. But we're going to open the door right now. It's a little bit like opening up the door to another world. Are you ready? It's a little bit blowy out there right now.
Death is irreversible, and the fact that she's
As you can see,
During Queen Elizabeth's funeral procession, an unknown female voice cut into the news feed and was heard saying that death is irreversible and the fact that she is trapped before it was finally cut off.
Oh, you wasted it. Where did those bullets even go? No way, that's it, bro. There we go. Oh, now she's out? Where the hell did she go? Wait, did she release him?
What I want to know is who or what chained that thing up and contained it.
These are the terrifying reasons you could never survive a Quetzalcoatlus. First off, they were 3 times taller than you. They stood over 16 feet tall, the height of a giraffe, with a wingspan the size of a bus 35 feet wide, being the largest animal to ever fly on Earth. But it gets more horrifying. They had 5 times better eyesight than humans, easily seeing tiny movements from miles away. And when they spotted you, they could jump up to 8 feet high, taking off from the ground alone. But when they flew, they wouldn't just flap their wings, mostly gliding instead, meaning that you wouldn't hear them coming. And even if you did have a chance to run, their bones are hollow, making them extremely fast, allowing them to reach up to 80 miles per hour when flying, impossible to outrun. But if you still somehow manage to escape under something nearby, you'd quickly figure out flying isn't the only thing they can do. Able to run on all 4s, but it gets worse once they find you, as they didn't have teeth. Instead, they would use their 8-foot-long razor-sharp beak to attack you, picking you out of your hiding spot and knocking you down with it. If you were small enough, they would just swallow you whole. But if you were larger, they couldn't eat too much at once, so they would constantly jab you and throw you around until smaller chunks of you tore off, swallowing you piece by piece.
If this thing was on land, could you imagine the type of shit that's in the water back then?
Welcome to Ancient Gateways National Park, a nexus of the ancient world. Located in the high peaks of Wyoming's Wind River Range, the area that is now the park is believed to have served as a hub of interdimensional travel in the archaic age of the others. Ancient Gateways National Park boasts the highest density of dormant interdimensional portals in the world. Walk the trails, bathe in the waterfalls, and marvel at the remnants of Earth's more magical past. Be warned, however, though dormant, the gateways still sometimes sputter back to life and allow beings from beyond into our world. Should you see any anomalous creatures or witness any out-of-place phenomena while in the park, leave the area and alert a ranger immediately.
I'm genuinely curious, in this scenario, what is the ranger supposed to do?
8th Ocean, you're saying they're keeping this closed off from the public for what reason?
Listen, there were things down there we just weren't prepared to encounter. Look, we were sent down into a canal which sonars couldn't detect a bottom on, right? It takes us hours to get through it, and when we finally did, we emerged into what felt like a pocket ocean. Words couldn't explain the anatomy of the creatures we were seeing outside the window, right? But we truly realized the alien nature of this place when this elongated, almost translucent-like figure, right, no joke, literally swims through the wall of the submarine. Don't ask me how, but we're just staring at it, right? As it completely passes through and just goes out the other side, right? I mean, these things weren't even abiding by our known laws of physics.
I mean, I remember saying with the crew, like, if outer space was a place on Earth, this was it, you know?
Isn't it crazy that ancient humans used to crack this? What's even crazier is that they gave us herpes. Seriously, the only reason our species has herpes is because someone was cracking this. And unfortunately, I'm not even kidding. This is Paranthropus. They were a species of hominid that we evolved alongside in Africa.
Paranthropus was basically like the human version of a cow. They evolved these massive jaws and huge teeth so they could process a bunch of vegetation at once and also have access to harder foods. They also have a tiny little brain compared to the rest of their face. Paranthropus evolved right alongside our early ancestors such as Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and other Australopithecus species. Some evidence suggests that they may have even been some of the first stone tool users. It is just so wild that our ancestors evolved alongside hominids that were so similar yet so different than us. And yeah, Paranthropus did give us herpes at some point. Most species only have one form of herpes, but we have two. And evidence suggests that this form of herpes came from Paranthropus, but more specifically it originated from chimpanzees. So at some point the ancestors of chimpanzees and Paranthropus got it on. And then at some point one of our own ancestors got it on with this Paranthropus population. Yeah, Pleistocene Africa was freaky. Like, seriously, look at these little guys. I don't even want to think about it. Prehistory is weird, man. Check out some of my videos to learn more. My name's North02 on YouTube. I made a video about the uncanny valley theory, as well as this strange upright walking monkey that lived in Europe for over 2 million years. Yeah, they may have used tools and looked absolutely terrifying, so go check it out.
Ocean legends and myths iceberg, sunken/lost places. This reminds me of things like Atlantis or the Phantom Island Bermeja. Atlantis was first mentioned, by Plato back around 300 BC. He talked about this powerful advanced civilization that sunk to the ocean floor after a catastrophic event. Some scholars think that the story was likely inspired by events like the volcanic eruption of Thera around 1600 BC, which is modern day Santorini. This volcanic eruption absolutely devastated the Minoan civilization, and while some believe it was an actual place, others just believe it was a metaphor for something. Bermeja, on the other hand, is an alleged phantom island. It was this island off the coast of the Yucatan that Mexico said existed, but then in the 1990s, people went to survey the island, and they realized it didn't exist, so they started calling it a phantom island, or like an island that disappeared. But in reality, it was very likely that Mexico just said it existed so they could extend their oil reach, or even the guy who made the map of Mexico used this island to make like a signature so people wouldn't copy his map. But there's even some people think that there's like this conspiracy about how the CIA bombed this island out of existence, but that is extremely unlikely. Old world sea monsters. So, especially around the more ancient times, this sea was basically the embodiment of chaos. We see this in a lot of like old world maps. They contain things like sea dragons and sea serpents and like kraken-like creatures. So virtually across all cultures that have contact with the sea, we have seen throughout history sea monsters depicted. The oldest of these sea monsters is likely in the Old Testament of the Bible, where they talk about the Leviathan, which is usually described as a terrifying sea monster that's often depicted as like a sea serpent or a sea dragon, which probably also was just supposed to represent chaos. But of old world sea monsters, the Kraken might be the most popular in modern day. This was talked about a super long time ago, like back around 1180 AD. King Sverre of Norway started talking about this giant squid-like creature that would sink ships close to Norway or around Norway. But he also went on about how there was hordes of other sea monsters that were similar to it that protected the shore of Norway. So it's probably just like a warning to people that wanted to attack Norway. The green flash. So this is a real thing that happens where people see a green flash right at the horizon around sunset or sunrise. This happens in places where you have like an unobstructed view of the horizon, such as like at the ocean. It usually only happens for just 1 second or less than a second, and it's just caused by an optical phenomenon of the sun going below the water and it makes it green. I really like the green flash because in Pirates of the Caribbean there was this mythology in there about how whenever a soul returned from the dead you would see the green flash. So rogue waves was actually thought to be just like a tall tale that sailors told all the way up until like the 80s. So it wasn't until 1964 that the first evidence scientifically for rogue waves waves came about, and that was mainly because there was offshore oil rigs and they had cameras on them, and that's how they figured it out. They thought it was just made up. But there's a really famous example of a rogue wave, the Dropner wave. It was 84 feet tall, and it was recorded in the North Sea in 1995. But rogue waves are basically just a giant wave that is like 2 to 3 times taller than other waves around it, and it can happen at any random time in the ocean. It's really pretty freaky. Carnivorous seaweed. So there's this weird thing called the Sargasso Sea, and basically it's the only sea in the world that isn't surrounded by land. Rather, it's just this oval of water that's about 2,000 miles wide that revolves clockwise like an eye of a hurricane, and it actually sits about 6 feet higher than the rest of the ocean. So the Sargasso Sea area houses this thing called the golden rainforest of the ocean, which is just these massive floating mats of sargassum seaweed. Back in the day, the sailors would always tell stories about how they were terrified of this place, and they even called it the horse latitudes because this one ship got stuck in the Sargasso Sea and they didn't have any wind, and so they were running out of water, so they threw their horses overboard to preserve drinking water. According to folklore about this area, a number of crews have gotten trapped inside of the Sargasso Sea and eaten by the seaweed. And there's a few incidences where they found ships floating without a crew, but most of those incidences may have just been legends, such as the Ellen Austin ship. The El Tanin antenna. So there was this Antarctic research ship that was photographing the seafloor off the coast of Antarctica, and they were taking pictures roughly 13,000 feet deep when they found this strange antenna. This thing looked like it was man-made or made by something, as it had like 90-degree angles and it looked very artificial. And so this picture was taken back in 1964 and everybody was puzzled, and it became a big deal on TV and in magazines at the time. People were calling it a lost piece of technology, and people were saying it was like an ancient planetary grid antenna or like a UFO alien artifact. Although later on in 1971, they classified it as a type of carnivorous sea sponge. But what's really strange is it looks very non-organic, and it looks like it's got, you know, these 90-degree angles, and it just doesn't seem to me like a sea sponge, but it probably is. The experts, I guess, know what they're talking about.
With how much information and knowledge they like to keep hidden from us, I wouldn't doubt that they've found things in the ocean that they keep classified from us, for whatever reasons.
In 1864, this zoologist was trying to figure out why lemur fossils were in Madagascar and in India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. And so this guy proposed the idea of a lost continent that used to be right there that connected those two landmasses. But for some reason, this idea of Lemuria turned into more of an occultist belief that Lemuria was a cradle of ancient wisdom and like a lost utopian society where there was these giant 15 feet tall people with 4 arms and they laid eggs. But also that Lemuria had a capital city called Telos, and Telos was for some reason located beneath a mountain in California, Mount Shasta, and that Telos is still there, and there's a huge underground city where the Lemurian survivors escaped to. But they also believe that some of the Lemurian high-up leaders transformed into things like dolphins and whales and mermaids and then went into the ocean while their continent was collapsing. Anyways, Lemuria is also kind of interchanged with the name Mu, the lost continent of Mu, which is also associated with Atlantis. Giant dragonfish. So basically, way back in the day in 1932, this guy created this primitive deep-sea submersible diving bell, and it was called BB's Bathysphere. It was a rounded steel ball with barely enough space for 2 people, which was, you know, terrifying to begin with. But then they took this metal ball down 2,100 feet deep off the coast of Bermuda. This is when they encountered these 2 fish that he described as being strange and never before seen. He said they were 6 feet long and that they resembled barracudas and that they were bioluminescent. They had these strong palish blue lights that were strung down their body, and he classified them as dragonfish. However, none of the fish that BB described has been confirmed to exist to this day. But I mean, as big as the ocean is, I would not be surprised that back in like the 1930s, they saw fish that maybe we're not seeing today. Just because of the idea of, you know, like ships traveling over the ocean have made some fish go deeper into the ocean, or maybe there are fish that are no longer existing because of just the overall human impact on the areas, especially like Bermuda.
I survived October 7th. I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
And you don't know how you got shot or hurt?
I know. I got hit in the head. I'm bleeding.
You lost a lot of blood.
I've lost blood.
So he gets shot in the head and just isn't bleeding anymore. It's just done bleeding that quick. And he's doing an interview after getting shot in the head, supposedly getting shot in the head. Honestly, I don't know what to believe anymore. You can't trust these people or believe anything that they say. And with how much coverage it's getting on the news, it's kind of strange. It's damn near making world news. Everybody knows about this. I'm just saying, I think it's strange that they're ignoring the fact that hundreds of thousands of people have been getting wiped out for the past 10 years. You know where. And it doesn't really make the news or media that often. And all of a sudden 10 to 15 Jews die and it just makes the news everywhere, worldwide. That's what I'm saying. You can't believe or trust anything that you see on the news or that these people are saying is happening to them. These people clearly just love being the victims and their victim card is expired. But let me know what you guys think about that whole situation. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go and end this video right here. If you guys did enjoy this video, let me know by leaving a thumbs up and or subscribing if you guys are new. As always, I appreciate every single one of you guys for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.